OK, we're now joined by Emily Schrader, journalist and Middle Eastern expert. Emily, how are you doing?
Great to be with you. Always a pleasure.
It's always great to have you on the programme. Let's talk about the Iranian regime. A lot of conversation about the what next. Is the regime going to fall? There have been suggestions that they've reached out to President Trump saying we want a conversation. Donald Trump putting it back on the table. Well, you should have talked sooner, but perhaps we can talk now. But to many Iranians, I understand that their hope would be, certainly not all Iranians, but a significant number, their hope would be that America would fight until the downfall of the regime. Is that possible? Is it sort of a many-headed beast that unfortunately is going to be extremely difficult to kill off once and for all? What do you think the modus operandi is now?
Well, I do think that it's important the United States and also Israel follow through with bringing down this regime. Now, does that mean they can have some kind of discussion, assuming that whoever is left in the leadership of the Islamic Republic wants to have a discussion? I mean, I guess sure. But at the end of the day, what really needs to change here is the structure of the regime itself. That means the dismantling of the IRGC. It means accountability, also legal accountability, whether under Iranian law or international law for the crimes against humanity that have been committed by this regime and all its affiliates, all of the henchmen of Khamenei. Perhaps he's been eliminated, but there's a lot of people responsible for this widespread bloodshed for 47 years who need to be held accountable. I do think it's possible. I do think the Iranian people are going to see this through to the end. I don't think it's going to happen quickly. I think it's going to take a bit of time. And it's also going to take a lot of coordination on a non-military front, which is important to discuss. We can't completely dismantle the IRGC if we aren't defunding it. And where is all their money? Well, a lot of it's in the UK. Right. We need to enforce those sanctions. We need to crack down on those people. We need to do research to find who these people are, to find where they are, and to find where they're hiding the money of the Iranian people that they've stolen.
A really important point you made there about the fact that the United Kingdom, unlike its European counterparts, are yet to prescribe the IRGC. We understand that they have bases here. There's been a lack of willingness from our Prime Minister to partner with America on the offensive elements to these strikes and giving America only an extremely limited scope of locations, capabilities and assets being launched from the United Kingdom. What do you make of that in terms of the UK's role internationally, geopolitically in this conflict?
Well, I mean, this is pure, unadulterated cowardice from Keir Starmer, and it's not the first time that we've seen it. And unfortunately, it's not the first government in the UK that we've seen that's quite cowardly when it comes to the Islamic regime, although he does seem to be particularly bad as of late. But the fact that the UK hasn't prescribed the IRGC behind even the European Union, it's despicable. I mean, there's really no excuse for it, especially given the fact that dozens of terror plots have been carried out, or have been plotted at least, foiled, thankfully, but have been plotted by the IRGC inside of UK territory. I mean, this is obscene. And let's remember the fact that earlier the regime persecuted Iran International, which had their headquarters in London, to the point where they weren't able to work from those offices due to the death threats. And then more recently, they've threatened Manoto, another Persian language anti-regime outlet with a major following based out of the UK. Same thing. These terror threats are constant against Iranians, Iranian dissidents, Iranian media. Anybody who says things that the regime doesn't like is a target in the United Kingdom. And this is unimaginable. The United Kingdom, of all places, which is supposed to be a bastion of free speech, of democracy, of all of these Western civilizational rights that in many cases they started. And still, this is the situation for people who flee those oppressive countries and come to the UK seeking safety, seeking shelter from places like Iran. There's no excuse for it. And the pitiful response of, oh, we're going to allow them, but only defensively after the Islamic Republic fires missiles at RAF bases. Where is your spine? What is wrong with this government?
Spine? I mean, thankfully, we were talking earlier about, we knew that there were 2 unmanned drones heading towards RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. And given that the lead time that military defensive elements have to intercept those, we can now let you know that they have been successfully intercepted. But you're right, Emily, an act of aggression against the United Kingdom, against an RAF airbase on an EU member state by Iran, and still the government seems to be lily livered about standing up to the regime. I want to talk to you, though, about the near neighbours of Israel and Iran, because to me it seems an incredibly bizarre modus operandi for the Iranian regime to be striking some of those near neighbours, regardless of whether or not there may be air bases or military assets positioned in or near them. In terms of it, to me, it appears to be concretising support from Gulf states in favour of America and not the reverse, which one would imagine would have been Tehran's objective.
Well, I do think that the regime has overplayed their hand when it comes to responding to what the United States and Israel have done inside Iran, targeting those regime sites. The fact that they're bombing multiple Muslim countries it just speaks to the fact that they're not understanding where they actually are situated right now, both amongst their own people. We saw millions of them in the streets that unfortunately tens of thousands got massacred by the regime. But beyond the borders of Iran, I mean, we see all of these Arab states who have been very critical in some cases of Israel over the Gaza war and many other issues. By no means are they all allies of the state of Israel. And yet, the Islamic Republic is turning them into allies of the state of Israel. And this idea that you can go around firing ballistic missiles at hotels in Dubai, at airports, at the Kuwait airport, it's absurd. I mean, this is something that no country should accept. And that is why we already see the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, many of these countries aligning against the Islamic regime. Now, we know they didn't like the Islamic regime before, but there was sort of a tacit acceptance that perhaps it's better to have a weakened regime than a regime change. I think that calculus is rapidly changing. I mean, the reality of the situation is this regime is they export their terrorism. As they say, they export the revolution of 79. That's been their MO from day one. And that includes the Arab world as well. And they thought that perhaps we could contain it, which is apparently the policy of Keir Starmer as well. The reality we're seeing today is that the Islamic regime can't be contained. It must be changed. It must fall for the sake of the region, but for all of humanity, quite frankly, including the United Kingdom.
Let's talk about that, because the concept of Iranian regime change is being echoed not just on the airways, but indeed by the perpetrators of these offensives. But change to what is the big question? We have heard in the precursor to this, I think it has been done relatively deliberately as some sort of psyop, almost the rolling out of Reza Pahlavi, who is the Crown Prince's, ostracised son, potentially coming back and re-establishing the Shahdom, whether you'd call it that, a royal family as part of a constitutional democratic royal head of state in Iran. But what a lot of Western viewers of this might not understand is we often look at countries like Iran and just think of it as one people's. It is not. There will be the Balochs with their own particular interests, the Kurds with their interests, the Persians with their interests. So do you believe that after all is said and done, if we do see the collapse of the regime, however long it takes, that there is a process in place of something to transition to and how to get there?
I absolutely believe that there is a pathway to a transition to democracy. I do think that we've seen remarkable support from many of those groups that you mentioned, even the ethnic minority groups in Iran that have had some opposition to the previous Shah. They have been chanting in the streets for the return of Reza Pahlavi. Now, Pahlavi himself hasn't advocated for monarchy. In fact, he said the opposite, both in interviews with me and in many, many subsequent interviews. He said explicitly, it's not my desire to be king of Iran. What I want to see is a democracy in Iran. And the plan that he's proposed and that he's worked with other governments in pursuing has been one of transition. What he's proposing is a transition period that he leads because the people want him to. That is the only reason that he has legitimacy. legitimacy. And that would see a referendum in which the Iranian people and them alone would choose the system of government that they want. That could be a monarchy, it could be a democracy, it could be a combination, could be parliamentary. We don't know yet. That's really up to them to decide, not me, not anyone else.
But do we believe that they're united enough to be able to create something afterwards, in the aftermath of this, that all Iranians can get behind? Because where we have seen interventionist policies from the West in the Middle East before, into the vacuum that has been created by the removal of all be they tyrannical leaders, has poured in often something sectarian, tribal and far more ghoulish.
I don't think it's the same situation, even close to Iraq. When we look at Iraq in 2003, there was no singular opposition figure that commanded even close to as much support as we see, of course, in the diaspora, but more importantly, inside Iran for Reza Pahlavi as a transitional leader. I think that there are plans in place that are being done in conjunction with with other governments in terms of what the day after this regime falls will look like. And I am confident that the Iranian people are united enough. Obviously, not every single person is going to support any one plan or any one leader. So there's going to be some opposition and some debate, and there should be. I mean, that's a healthy society where there's debate that happens in that form. But I do think that for the first time, we're seeing the Iranian people united enough to really oversee that transition into something much more positive that can contribute to the international community as a positive player rather than as a pariah state that's endangering everyone around them. This is also the history of the Iranian people, which is quite different than Afghanistan or Iraq in terms of the structure of the state. It's a highly educated population that desires democracy, that has gone to great lengths to risk their own lives to call for this and to push back. I think we're going to see a very, very different reality on the ground inside Iran than we would have seen in any other country advocating regime change. And the most important thing to remember is that the concept of regime change isn't something that's being pushed by foreign powers. This is something that the Iranian people have been calling for, have been begging for in recent months, because they want that change and are unable to with the IRGC and the Islamic regime being as oppressive as they are today.
Emily, thank you ever so much. Always fascinating insights from Emily.